The sound of his palm hitting my face echoed through the kitchen like a gunshot. My own son. The boy I nursed through fevers, the child I held when his father died. Tyler stood over me, fist still clenched, and said 5 words that shattered 24 years of motherhood. "You are nothing to me." That night I did not sleep. I sat in the dark planning. The next morning I made him his favorite breakfast. Pancakes, bacon, fresh squeezed orange juice, and something else. Something he never saw coming. Before I tell you what happened next, I want to invite you to subscribe to this channel and stay with me until the very end of this story. Drop a comment below telling me what city you are watching from. I want to see just how far my story has traveled. Now let me take you back to where it all began. My name is Margaret Thompson. Most people call me Maggie. I am 52 years old, and for 28 years, I worked as a registered nurse at Mount Carmel Hospital in Columbus, Ohio. I held the hands of strangers as they took their last breath. I told families that their loved ones did not make it. I thought I understood pain. I was wrong. Nothing in those emergency rooms prepared me for the moment my own flesh and blood raised his hand against me. Nothing in all those years of witnessing human suffering came close to the betrayal I felt when Tyler's palm connected with my cheek. But I am getting ahead of myself. To understand that night, you need to understand the 24 years that came before it. Tyler was born on a Tuesday morning in March of 2000. 17 hours of labor. No epidural because I wanted to feel everything. I wanted to remember every second of bringing my son into this world. When the doctor placed him on my chest, he stopped crying immediately. He just looked at me with those big blue eyes, and I swear to you, I felt my heart leave my body and take up residence in his tiny hands. My husband David stood beside me, tears streaming down his face. He leaned in close and whispered, "We made that, Maggie. We made that perfect little human." David was the love of my life. We met in college, married at 23, and spent the next 3 decades building a life together. He worked construction, came home with calloused hands and sawdust in his hair, and every single night he told me I was the most beautiful woman he had ever seen. Even when I gained weight after the pregnancies, even when gray started creeping into my hair, even when I was too tired from double shifts to do anything but collapse on the couch. "You are my home," he used to say. "Everything else is just walls and a roof." We had 2 children. Tyler first, then Emma 4 years later. For a while, everything was perfect. Friday night pizza and board games. Summer vacations to Lake Erie. Christmas mornings with too many presents under the tree because David could never say no to the kids. Tyler was a good boy, quiet, thoughtful, always bringing home stray animals he wanted to save. He played basketball in middle school, made honor roll in 9th grade, talked about maybe becoming a veterinarian someday. He called me Mom with such tenderness that it made my chest ache. Then David got sick, pancreatic cancer, stage 4 by the time they found it. The doctors gave him 6 months. He lasted 8, fighting for every single day because he did not want to leave us. I remember the night before he died. The hospice nurse had just left, and I was sitting beside his bed holding his hand. He could barely speak anymore, but he gathered enough strength to pull me close. "Promise me something, Maggie. Anything. Take care of our kids, especially Tyler. He's going to need guidance. He's going to need someone to show him how to be a man." I promise, David. I promise." He smiled, squeezed my hand one last time, and closed his eyes. By morning, he was gone. Tyler was 16 when we buried his father. He stood at the graveside in a suit that was slightly too big, borrowed from David's closet, and he did not cry. Not once. Not during the funeral, not during the reception, not during the weeks that followed. He just went silent. I thought he was being strong. I thought he was processing his grief in his own way. I gave him space, I gave him time, I gave him everything I thought he needed. What I did not give him was structure, accountability, consequences. That was my first mistake. The changes started small. Tyler stopped doing his homework. When I asked about it, he said he could not concentrate. I understood. I was having trouble concentrating too, so I let it slide. Then he stopped going to basketball practice, said he was not in the mood. I thought about pushing him, but he looked so sad, so lost. So I let it slide. Then he stopped going to school altogether, just stayed in his room, door locked, playing video games until 3 in the morning. He is grieving, I told myself. He will come around. But he did not come around. Months turned into a year turned into 2. Tyler dropped out of high school 3 months before graduation, said he could not see the point. The point is your future, I said. What future? We all end up like Dad eventually, 6 feet under. What is the point of any of it? I did not know how to respond to that, so I made him his favorite dinner and told him we could figure things out together. Tomorrow, always tomorrow. Emma, my daughter, saw what I could not. She was only 12 when David died, but she processed her grief differently. She threw herself into her studies, joined every extracurricular activity she could find, built a life outside the shadow of loss. By 16, she was talking about medical school. By 18, she had a full scholarship to UCLA. The night before Emma left for California, she sat me down at the kitchen table. Her bags were packed, her future stretching out before her like a golden road. "Mom, I need to say something, and I need you to really hear me." "Of course, sweetheart. You are killing Tyler." I felt like she had slapped me. "Excuse me?" "Not literally, but you are not doing him any favors. You pay for everything. You clean up after him. You make excuses for him. He is 20 years old, and he has never had a job. He has never paid a bill. He has never had to face a single consequence for anything." "Emma, your brother is struggling. He lost his father." "We all lost Dad." Her voice cracked. "I lost him too, but I did not let it become an excuse to stop living. Tyler has turned grief into a lifestyle, and you are funding it. He just needs more time." Emma shook her head, tears in her eyes. "It has been 4 years, Mom." "How much more time are you going to give him?" "Another 4 years. 10. Are you going to be making his breakfast and doing his laundry when he is 40? I wanted to argue. I wanted to defend my choices, but something in her words burrowed under my skin like a splinter. "I love your brother," I said quietly. "I know you do. That is the problem. You love him so much, you cannot see that you are destroying him. Real love is not giving someone everything they want. Real love is giving them what they need, and Tyler needs to grow up." She hugged me tight, whispered goodbye, and walked out the door. I watched her rental car disappear down the street and felt something shift inside me. A crack in the foundation I had built my denial upon. But I did not act on it. Not then, because acting on it would mean admitting that I had failed, that everything I had done for the past 4 years was wrong. And I was not ready for that. So another 4 years passed. Tyler turned 24. Still no job, still no education, still living in the same bedroom he had grown up in, surrounded by pizza boxes and energy drink cans, the curtains permanently drawn against the daylight. I had retired early from nursing. My body could not handle the long shifts anymore, and honestly, I was tired of caring for strangers when my own son needed me. So I came home thinking maybe we could spend more time together. Maybe I could finally help him get back on his feet. Instead, I became his full-time servant. I cooked his meals, did his laundry, cleaned his room when the smell became unbearable. I paid the mortgage, the utilities, the internet bill he ran up to over $200 a month with his gaming subscriptions. I gave him cash when he asked for it. $50 here, $100 there. For investments, he said. Cryptocurrency, stocks, things that were going to make him rich someday. He never made a penny. He lost thousands, my thousands. But what could I do? He was my son, and deep down, buried under all the excuses and rationalizations, I knew the truth. I was not helping him because he needed it. I was helping him because if I stopped, I would have to face the monster I had created. The night everything changed started like any other. I was in the kitchen preparing dinner. Pot roast with vegetables, David's mother's recipe. I had been thinking about my husband a lot lately. Probably because the anniversary of his death was approaching. 8 years. It felt like yesterday and a lifetime ago all at once. I heard Tyler's door open upstairs. Footsteps on the stairs. He appeared in the kitchen doorway, hair greasy, wearing the same sweatpants he had worn for the past 3 days. "What is for dinner?" "Pot roast. It will be ready in about an hour." He grunted and headed for the refrigerator, grabbed a can of soda, cracked it open, took a long drink. I watched him. My son, 24 years old and moving through life like a ghost. No spark in his eyes, no purpose in his step. Just existing. "Tyler, can we talk?" "About what?" "About you. About your future. About what happens next." He sighed heavily, like I had just asked him to move a mountain. "Not this again." "Yes, this again. It has been 8 years since your father died. 8 years of you sitting in that room. Do you not want more from life? I want you to leave me alone. I am your mother. I cannot leave you alone. I love you too much to watch you waste away." Tyler slammed the soda can down on the counter. "Love you call this love? You just want to control me. Tell me what to do. Make me into some corporate drone working 9 to 5 until I drop dead like Dad. Your father did not drop dead. He got sick. There is a difference." "Is there?" "He worked himself to death for this house, for this family, and what did it get him? A grave. That is what. At least I am actually living." "This is not living, Tyler. This is hiding." He laughed. It was an ugly sound. "Hiding from what?" "From everything. From responsibility. From growing up. From becoming the man your father wanted you to be." The air in the kitchen changed. I felt it before I saw it. A coldness settling over Tyler's features, his jaw tightening, his hands curling into fists. "Do not talk about Dad. You do not get to use him against me." "I am not using him against you. I am trying to honor his memory. He asked me to take care of you, to guide you, and I have failed. I see that now. I have given you everything except what you actually needed. What I need is for you to back off. What you need is a job, structure, purpose. I have been enabling you for too long, and it stops now." Tyler took a step toward me. "What does that mean?" "It means things are going to change. I am not going to keep paying for everything while you contribute nothing. You need to start looking for work. You need to start taking responsibility for your life." "Or what?" The question hung in the air. I had never set an ultimatum before, never drawn a line in the sand. But Emma's words from 4 years ago echoed in my mind. Real love is giving them what they need, or you will need to find somewhere else to live. Tyler stared at me. For a moment I thought I saw something flicker behind his eyes, fear maybe, or recognition, like he was finally hearing me. Then his face twisted into something I did not recognize. "You cannot kick me out. This is my house." "This house belongs to me, Tyler. Your father left it to me." "That is not what he told me." "What are you talking about?" "Dad told me, before he died, he said the house would be mine someday, that he was leaving it to me because I was the man of the family now." My blood ran cold. "Tyler, that is not what the will says." "I do not care what some piece of paper says. I know what Dad wanted. He wanted me to have this house. You are just the one living in it." "That is not true." "Yes, it is. You are just a guest here, Mom. You do not own anything. You are nobody." The words hit me like physical blows. But worse than the words was the look on his face, the absolute conviction, the hatred. "Tyler, I do not know what your father said to you, but the legal documents are clear. The house is in my name. I have the right to live here until I die. Then it passes to you and Emma equally. Emma does not deserve anything. She abandoned us. She went to college. That is not abandonment. She left. You stayed, but you are not entitled to anything. This is my house, and you do not get to kick me out of my own house." He was shouting now, standing so close I could smell the stale sweat on him, see the broken blood vessels in his eyes from too many sleepless nights in front of glowing screens. "Tyler, please calm down. We can discuss this rationally." "There is nothing to discuss. You are going to keep paying the bills and keep making my food and keep staying out of my way. That is how this works. That is how it has always worked. And if you do not like it, you can leave." I should have walked away. I should have given him time to cool down and revisited the conversation later. But something inside me snapped. Maybe it was the cumulative weight of 8 years of biting my tongue. Maybe it was the mention of David's name twisted and weaponized against me. Maybe it was simply the end of my patience. "No," I said quietly. Tyler blinked. "What?" "No. I will not be threatened in my own home. I will not be bullied by my own son. Your father would be ashamed of the man you have become." The moment the words left my mouth, I knew I had made a mistake, but I could not take them back. They hung in the air between us, sharp and irreversible. Tyler's face went white, then red. His entire body began to tremble. "Take it back." "Tyler, I did not mean to." "Take it back. I cannot change the truth. Your father wanted you to become a man, a provider, someone who takes care of his family instead of being taken care of. He would be heartbroken to see what you have become." I saw his hand move, but did not believe it. Even as his palm connected with my cheek, even as my head snapped to the side and my vision exploded into stars, I could not process what was happening. It simply did not compute. My son, my baby boy, the child I had nursed and rocked and loved with every fiber of my being, hitting me. I stumbled backward, caught myself on the kitchen counter. My hand went to my face. Already I could feel the heat blooming across my cheek. Tomorrow there would be a bruise, evidence of the unthinkable. Tyler stood there breathing hard, his hands still raised. He looked almost as shocked as I felt. For one brief second I saw remorse flash across his features. Saw the little boy he used to be peeking through the stranger he had become. Then the walls went back up. "You made me do that," he said. His voice was steady now, cold. "You pushed me until I had no choice. This is your fault." I could not speak, could barely breathe. "Next time, keep your mouth shut. Next time, remember your place." He turned and walked out of the kitchen. I heard his footsteps on the stairs, heard his bedroom door slam shut, heard the familiar sound of his computer booting up, life returning to normal, as if nothing had happened. I do not know how long I stood there. Minutes, maybe an hour. The pot roast burned in the oven, filling the kitchen with the smell of char. I did not notice. I was somewhere else entirely. 24 years. I had given him 24 years of my life. I had sacrificed my career, my social life, my chance at finding love again after David. I had poured everything I had into raising this boy. And in return, he had struck me. Told me I was nothing. Told me I did not belong in my own home. Something fundamental shifted inside me that night. I felt it happen, like tectonic plates grinding against each other deep underground, the bedrock of my identity as a mother, as a nurturer, as someone who gives and gives without expectation of return, cracked and began to crumble. I did not cry. I think I was beyond tears. Instead, I reached over and turned off the oven. I scraped the ruined pot roast into the garbage. I wiped down the counters and washed the dishes and swept the floor. Then I sat down at the kitchen table in the chair where David used to sit every morning with his coffee and his newspaper, and I began to think. I thought about Emma's warning 4 years ago, about all the signs I had ignored, about the boy Tyler used to be, and the man he had become, and the role I had played in that transformation. I thought about David, about the promise I had made at his deathbed. Take care of our kids, especially Tyler. He is going to need guidance. I had taken care of Tyler, but I had not guided him. There is a difference, a profound and devastating difference. Taking care of someone means feeding them when they are hungry and sheltering them from the storm. Guiding them means teaching them to feed themselves, to build their own shelter, to weather their own storms. I had done the first and neglected the second. And in doing so, I had crippled my son, made him dependent, made him angry, made him capable of raising his hand against the woman who gave him life. I thought about all of this for a very long time. The house grew quiet around me. Night deepened into the small hours before dawn. And somewhere in that darkness, a decision took shape. Not revenge. I want to be clear about that. What I planned was not about punishment or payback. It was about truth, about consequences, about finally, after 8 long years, doing what I should have done from the beginning. Tyler needed to grow up. And sometimes growing up means learning that actions have repercussions, that you cannot hurt people without facing the fallout, that the world does not owe you anything, least of all your own mother's silent suffering. At 5 in the morning, I got up from the table. I showered, dressed, and drove myself to the 24-hour urgent care clinic across town. I told the nurse practitioner that I had taken a fall, but she looked at the handprint blooming on my cheek and did not ask any follow-up questions. She just documented everything carefully, gave me some ice packs, and told me that resources were available if I needed them. I took photographs of my face in the clinic bathroom. Time-stamped, dated, undeniable. Then I drove home as the sun began to rise over Columbus. I parked in the driveway and sat there for a moment looking at the house. The house David and I had bought 30 years ago with a down payment we had scraped together from 3 years of savings. The house where we had raised our children, celebrated birthdays and holidays, weathered the storms of ordinary life. My house, not Tyler's, mine. I walked inside, went to the kitchen, and began to cook. Pancakes from scratch the way Tyler liked them. Crispy bacon. Eggs over easy. Fresh squeezed orange juice. I set the table carefully. 2 places, 2 plates, 2 glasses. And beside Tyler's plate, a large brown envelope. Then I sat down and waited for my son to wake up. The morning light streamed through the windows. Birds sang in the trees outside. Somewhere down the street, a dog barked, and children laughed on their way to school. Ordinary sounds of an ordinary day. But there was nothing ordinary about what was about to happen. I heard Tyler's door open around 9, footsteps on the stairs heavier than usual. He appeared in the kitchen doorway, squinting against the light, and stopped short when he saw the table. "What is this?" "Breakfast. Sit down." He studied me warily, looking for some sign of the previous night, looking for tears or fear or submission. He found none of those things. What he found was a woman who had finally stopped lying to herself, a mother who had finally accepted a painful truth, a person who had made a decision and was prepared to follow through. He sat. "Tyler," I said calmly, "we need to talk about last night." His jaw tightened. "There is nothing to talk about. You provoked me. It will not happen again as long as you stay in your lane." "Open the envelope." "What?" "The envelope beside your plate. Open it." He looked at me, then at the brown envelope, then back at me. Something flickered in his eyes, the first hint of uncertainty. He picked up the envelope and tore it open. I watched his face as he pulled out the contents. First, the photographs. His expression went from confusion to shock to something approaching fear as he flipped through the images of my bruised face. Clinical, documented, undeniable. Then, the medical report. He read it slowly, his lips moving slightly with the words. Evidence of blunt force trauma consistent with an open-handed strike, photographed and documented at 5:47 a.m. Then, the printout of Ohio's domestic violence laws, the sections dealing with assault of a family member highlighted in yellow, and finally, the letter. My letter, written in the small hours of the morning while he slept peacefully upstairs, unaware that his entire life was about to change. Tyler's hands were shaking by the time he finished reading. He looked up at me with wide eyes, and for the first time in years, I saw my son, not the angry stranger who had taken his place, but the frightened boy underneath. "Mom," he whispered. "Mom, please." "You have 30 days, I said. My voice did not waver. 30 days to find a job, find an apartment, and move out. I will pay your security deposit and first month's rent. That is all. You cannot do this. I can and I am. I will fight you. I will get a lawyer. Dad wanted me to have this house." I reached across the table and tapped the final document in the pile. The one he had not looked at yet, a certified copy of David's will. "Read it." Tyler grabbed the paper like it was a lifeline. His eyes scanned the legal language, searching desperately for ammunition. I watched his face fall as he reached the relevant section. "I, David Michael Thompson, hereby bequeath the family residence at 847 Maple Street, Columbus, Ohio, to my beloved wife, Margaret Ann Thompson, to remain her sole property and primary residence for the duration of her lifetime." "This is wrong," Tyler said, but his voice had lost its conviction. "Dad told me. Your father told you that you would inherit someday, and you will, after I die. But until then, this house belongs to me, and I have the right to decide who lives under its roof. Mom, please, I am sorry about last night. It will never happen again, I swear. You are right that it will never happen again, because in 30 days you will not be here. Where am I supposed to go? That is for you to figure out. I do not have any money. Then I suggest you find a job. Tyler slammed his fist on the table. The plates rattled, the orange juice sloshed in its glass. I did not flinch. This is not fair. No, I agreed. It is not fair. It is not fair that I spent 8 years taking care of you instead of helping you grow. It is not fair that I let my grief and my guilt turn me into an enabler instead of a mother. It is not fair that I failed you so completely that you thought hitting me was acceptable behavior. I leaned forward, holding his gaze. But here is the thing about fairness, Tyler. The world does not owe you any. Neither do I. Not anymore. And he stared at me like I was a stranger. And in a way, I suppose I was. The woman who had let him get away with everything for 8 years was gone. In her place sat someone harder. Someone who had finally learned that love without boundaries is not love at all. What if I refuse? His voice was barely above a whisper. I gestured at the photographs scattered across the table. Then I take those to the police. I file charges for assault. You get a criminal record that follows you for the rest of your life, and you still end up out of this house only with a lot more problems. You would not. Try me. We sat there in silence, the untouched breakfast growing cold between us. Outside, the morning continued its indifferent march. Cars drove by. Neighbors walked their dogs. The world kept turning. Finally, Tyler spoke. I hate you. The words should have hurt. Maybe a day ago they would have devastated me, but something had changed overnight. I had changed. That is your choice, I said. You can hate me. You can blame me. You can tell yourself that I am the villain in your story. But none of that changes the facts. In 30 days, you are moving out. What you do after that is up to you. I stood up from the table. Eat your breakfast if you want, or do not, but the clock starts now. I walked out of the kitchen, leaving my son alone with the ruins of everything he had taken for granted. And for the first time in 8 years, I did not look back. The first 3 days were the hardest. Tyler did not speak to me. He stayed in his room door, locked, the muffled sounds of video games and angry music seeping through the walls at all hours. I heard him come downstairs late at night when he thought I was asleep, raiding the refrigerator, then retreating back to his fortress of denial. I let him have his silence. I was done chasing him. On the 4th day, he emerged. I was sitting in the living room reading a book when he appeared in the doorway. He had showered for the first time since our confrontation. His hair was combed. He was wearing clean clothes. For a moment, he almost looked like the son I remembered. Can we talk? I set my book aside. Of course. He sat down across from me, perched on the edge of the couch, like he might bolt at any moment. His hands were clasped between his knees, fingers interlaced so tightly the knuckles had gone white. I have been thinking, he said. About what you said. About everything. I waited. You are right that I have not handled things well since Dad died. I know that. I have known it for a while, actually. I just did not know how to change. And now you do. I want to try, I really do. But Mom, 30 days is not enough time. I need longer. I need you to give me a chance to prove that I can be different. His voice was earnest. His eyes were wide and pleading. And for one treacherous moment I felt my resolve waver. This was my son, my baby, the child I had sworn to protect and nurture. How could I throw him out into the world when he was clearly struggling? Then I remembered the sound of his palm hitting my face, the coldness in his eyes when he told me I was nothing, the years of excuses and second chances that had led us to this moment. The timeline stands, I said. Mom, please. I am asking you to be reasonable. I am being reasonable. For the first time in 8 years, I am being reasonable. You are being cruel. No, Tyler, Cruel would be letting you spend another decade rotting in that room. Cruel would be watching you waste your entire life and doing nothing to stop it. What I am doing is the opposite of Cruel. I am finally being the mother I should have been all along. He stared at me, and I watched the mask slip back into place. The vulnerability disappeared, replaced by something harder and more familiar. Fine. You want me gone in 30 days, I will be gone in 30 days. But do not expect me to come crawling back when this blows up in your face. I would not dream of it. He stood up abruptly. You are going to regret this. When I am out there struggling, when I cannot make rent, when everything falls apart, you are going to remember this moment and hate yourself. Maybe. Or maybe I will remember this moment as the day I finally stopped failing you. Tyler laughed bitterly. You have a funny definition of failure. He walked out of the room, and a moment later, I heard the front door slam. Through the window, I watched him get into the old Honda Civic I had bought him 3 years ago. The car I paid the insurance on. The car he had never once thanked me for. He peeled out of the driveway with a screech of tires and disappeared down the street. I picked up my book and tried to read, but the words blurred in front of my eyes. My hands were shaking, not from fear, from something else entirely, from the unfamiliar sensation of holding my ground. That night, I called Emma. She answered on the second ring, her voice bright despite the 3-hour time difference. Mom, is everything okay? Yes and no, I need to tell you something. I told her everything. About the confrontation, about Tyler hitting me, about the ultimatum I had delivered and his reaction. I told her about the medical documentation, the photographs, the 30-day timeline. I held nothing back. When I finished, there was a long silence on the other end of the line. Mom, Emma said finally, her voice thick with emotion, I am so proud of you. I had not expected that. Proud? Do you have any idea how hard it is to do what you did, to finally draw that line after so many years? Most people never manage it. They just keep enabling, forever, keep hoping things will magically get better. But you actually did something. You took action. I feel like a terrible mother. You are not a terrible mother. You are a mother who made a difficult decision because you love your son. That is the opposite of terrible. What if he cannot handle it? What if he ends up on the street? Then he ends up on the street, and maybe that is what it takes for him to finally wake up. Some people have to hit rock bottom before they can start climbing. That sounds so cold. It is not cold. It is realistic. Mom, Tyler is a grown man. He has had every advantage. 2 parents who loved him, a roof over his head, financial support, educational opportunities. He has squandered all of it, and that is not your fault. You gave him everything. He chose to do nothing with it. I felt tears prick at my eyes. I just keep thinking about when he was little, when he would crawl into bed with us during thunderstorms, when he used to draw me pictures and leave them on my pillow. Where did that boy go? He grew up. And the man he grew into is not the same as the boy he used to be. That is not your fault either. People make their own choices. Tyler chose to let grief swallow him whole instead of fighting through it. That was his decision, not yours. Your father would be so disappointed. In Tyler, not in you. Dad would be heartbroken to see what Tyler has become, but he would be proud of you for finally taking a stand. He always said you were the strongest person he knew. I think you just proved him right. We talked for another hour, about Tyler, about Emma's studies, about the future. By the time I hung up, I felt lighter. Not happy exactly, but clearer, more certain that I was doing the right thing, even if it did not feel good. The days that followed settled into an uneasy rhythm. Tyler came and went at odd hours, avoiding me whenever possible. I heard him on the phone sometimes, his voice raised in frustration. I caught fragments of conversations, job applications, apartment inquiries, the slow, grinding machinery of adult responsibility that he had avoided for so long, finally grinding into motion. On day 10, he came to me again. I have been applying for jobs, he said, standing in the kitchen doorway while I washed dishes. Nobody is hiring. The economy is terrible. Keep trying. I have submitted 30 applications this week. 30, not a single callback. Then submit 30 more. You do not understand how hard it is out there. I turned off the water and faced him. Actually, I do. I worked for 28 years, Tyler. I started as a nursing assistant making minimum wage and worked my way up. I applied for jobs I did not get. I faced rejection and disappointment and setback after setback. That is how life works. You do not get handed success. You earn it. It was different back then. No, it was not. People have been using that excuse for generations. It was different back then. It is harder now. The system is rigged. Do you know what those excuses have in common? They are all ways of avoiding responsibility, of blaming external factors for internal failures. So it is my fault that no one will hire me. Yes, because you have no education, no work experience, and an 8-year gap in your resume that you cannot explain. Those are the consequences of the choices you made. Now you have to deal with them. Tyler's face flushed with anger. You really do not care, do you? Your own son is struggling, and you just stand there lecturing me. I care more than you know. That is why I am not rescuing you. Every time I rescued you before I made things worse, I taught you that someone else would always clean up your messes. Well, not anymore. This mess is yours to clean up. I cannot believe you are the same person. What happened to you? I woke up. I suggest you do the same. He stormed out again. It was becoming a pattern, but something had shifted. Despite his anger, despite his accusations, Tyler was actually doing things. Applying for jobs, looking at apartments, engaging with reality in a way he had not done in years. The deadline I had imposed was working, not because he accepted it, but because he had no choice. On day 15, he got a call back. I was not supposed to know. He did not tell me. But I overheard him on the phone trying to keep his voice down, scheduling an interview for the following morning. Something at a warehouse, entry level, night shift. The next day I watched him leave the house in khaki pants and a button-down shirt. The clothes were wrinkled and slightly too tight. He had gained weight over the years, but he was trying. For the first time in almost a decade, he was actually trying. He came home 4 hours later, looking shell-shocked. How did it go? I asked, keeping my voice neutral. They offered me the job. I felt a surge of something. Pride, maybe, or hope. Congratulations. It is nothing to congratulate. It is a warehouse job, loading trucks, $12 an hour. It is a start. It is pathetic. I am 24 years old, and I'm going to be loading trucks for $12 an hour. You are 24 years old, and you are going to be supporting yourself for the first time in your life. That is not pathetic. That is progress. He looked at me with an expression I could not quite read. Not anger, not resentment. Something more complicated. Something that might have been the beginning of understanding. I start Monday, he said quietly. I am proud of you. The words surprised both of us. They came out before I could stop them rising from somewhere deep and instinctive. Tyler's eyes widened. For a moment, I thought he might cry. Then the walls went back up. Whatever, he muttered and disappeared upstairs. But that night, for the first time since our confrontation, I heard his door open and close at a reasonable hour. No video games, no angry music, just silence. Day 20 arrived faster than I expected. Tyler had been working for a week. He came home exhausted every morning, his body aching from physical labor it was not accustomed to. He slept through the afternoons and was gone by evening. We barely saw each other, but the few interactions we had were different, quieter, less hostile. The sharp edges of his anger seemed to be wearing down ground smooth by the relentless demands of showing up, doing the work, being accountable to someone other than himself. One morning he sat down at the kitchen table while I was having coffee. He looked terrible. Dark circles under his eyes, a bruise on his forearm from loading pallets. But there was something else in his expression, something I had not seen in years. I found an apartment, he said, where, over on Oak Street, it is a studio, nothing fancy, but it is clean and the landlord seems okay. How much though? $6.50 a month. I can cover it with what I am making as long as I pick up extra shifts. I nodded slowly. That sounds reasonable. I went and looked at it yesterday. It is small, really small. The kitchen is basically a hot plate and a mini fridge, but it has a window. The way he said it. It has a window. Like that small detail mattered. Like he was starting to appreciate things he had always taken for granted. When can you move in? The first of the month, 10 days from now. Right on schedule. Almost exactly 30 days from the morning, I had laid down the law. Do you need help moving your things? Tyler hesitated. I could see him wrestling with something. Pride warring with practicality. The instinct to reject any offer from the mother who had upended his life. Yeah, he said finally. I could use some help. It was such a small thing, such a simple admission, but it felt like a breakthrough. For 8 years, Tyler had insisted he did not need anything from anyone, even as he depended on me for everything. Now finally, he was asking for help in a healthy way, not demanding, not expecting, asking. I will be there, I said. The next 10 days passed quickly. Tyler worked his shifts. I began sorting through his room, separating what he would take from what would stay. There was more staying than going. All those video games, all that equipment he had begged me to buy, all those material things he had accumulated during his years of stagnation. Most of it was worthless now, outdated, broken, symbols of a life that was finally ending. The night before his move, Tyler knocked on my bedroom door. Come in. He entered slowly, awkwardly. It occurred to me that he had not been in my room in years, not since he was a teenager back when he still sought comfort from his mother instead of distance. I wanted to say something, he said. Before tomorrow. Okay. He stood there for a long moment, struggling to find words. I waited. I had learned patience over the past month. The old Maggie would have rushed to fill the silence to make things easier for him. The new Maggie understood that some things needed to be difficult. I am sorry, Tyler said finally, for hitting you, for what I said, for all of it. The words hung in the air between us. I had been waiting for this apology since that night in the kitchen. Part of me had wondered if it would ever come. Thank you for saying that. I do not know why I did it. I mean, I know what I was feeling. Angry, scared, cornered. But that is not an excuse. There is no excuse for putting your hands on someone, especially your own mother. No, there is not. I have been thinking a lot this past month. About Dad. About what he would think if he could see me now. Tyler's voice cracked. He would hate me. What I have become. What I did to you. He would not hate you. He would be disappointed. There is a difference. Is there? Yes. Hate means giving up on someone. Disappointment means you still believe they can be better. Your father would never give up on you. Neither will I. Tyler wiped his eyes with the back of his hand. I wasted so much time. 8 years. I could have done so much with 8 years. You could have, but you cannot change the past. You can only change what comes next. What if I fail? What if I cannot make it on my own? Then you fail. And then you get up and try again. That is what adults do. That is what your father did every single day of his life. He failed more times than you know, lost jobs, made bad investments, had plans fall through, but he never stopped trying, never stopped getting back up. I miss him so much. The words broke something open in both of us. I felt tears spill down my cheeks. Tyler crossed the room in 2 steps, and suddenly we were holding each other. For the first time in 8 years, my son was in my arms, and we were crying together for the man we had both lost. I miss him too, I whispered, every single day. Why did he have to die? Why could he not have stayed? I needed him, Mom. I needed him, and he left, and I did not know what to do. I know, baby. I know. We stood there for a long time, mother and son, grieving together instead of grieving alone. Finally doing what we should have done 8 years ago when the wound was still fresh. When we finally pulled apart, something had changed. The air between us felt different, lighter, like a storm had passed and left clear skies in its wake. "I am going to try," Tyler said. "I mean, really try this time, not just going through the motions. I am going to build a life, get my GED, maybe take some classes, become someone Dad would have been proud of. That is all I have ever wanted for you. I know that now. I was just too angry to see it before. Angry at me, angry at everything, at Dad for dying, at you for trying to help, at Emma for leaving, at the whole world for not stopping and acknowledging that my life had fallen apart. But mostly angry at myself, for not being strong enough to handle it, for falling apart when I should have stepped up. Grief does strange things to people. It does. But I am done letting it control me. I am done using it as an excuse." He took a deep breath, squared his shoulders, and in that moment I saw a glimpse of the man he could become. Not the angry stranger who had raised his hand against me, not the lost boy who had hidden in his room for 8 years, someone new, someone stronger, someone worthy of the father he had lost. "I should get some sleep," he said. "Big day tomorrow." "Yes, big day." He turned to leave, then paused at the door. "Mom." "Yes. Thank you for not giving up on me, even when I deserved it." "I never gave up on you, Tyler. I just finally learned how to love you the right way." He nodded slowly. Then he was gone. His footsteps quiet in the hallway, his door closing softly for once instead of slamming. I sat on the edge of my bed for a long time after that, thinking about the past month, about everything that had changed, about the son I had almost lost and the relationship we were slowly, painfully rebuilding. It was not perfect. It would probably never be perfect. The bruise on my face had faded, but the memory of that night would stay with me forever. You do not forget something like that. You do not fully forgive it, not really, not deep down where it matters. But you can move forward. You can choose to believe that people are capable of change. You can extend grace while still maintaining boundaries. You can love someone fiercely while refusing to let them destroy you. That is what I had learned. That is what these 30 days had taught me. Tomorrow my son would leave this house and begin his own life. He would struggle. He would fail. He would face challenges he could not yet imagine. But for the first time in 8 years, he would be facing them on his own 2 feet. Not hiding, not running, not waiting for someone else to save him. And maybe that was the greatest gift I could give him. Not money or shelter or endless second chances, but the faith that he was capable of building something on his own. The trust that he could become the man his father had always believed he could be. I turned off the light and lay down in the darkness. Sleep came easier than it had in weeks. Not peaceful exactly, but certain. Settled. The sleep of someone who has finally stopped fighting against the current and learned to swim. Tomorrow would bring new challenges. Tomorrow would bring uncertainty and fear, and probably more conflict. But tomorrow would also bring possibility. The chance for Tyler to prove himself. The chance for our relationship to heal. The chance for both of us to become better versions of ourselves. I had done the hardest thing a mother can do. I had let go. And in letting go, I had finally set us both free. Moving day arrived with the kind of gray Ohio morning that could not decide if it wanted to rain or simply threaten. I woke before my alarm, lying in bed listening to the sounds of Tyler already moving around upstairs. Boxes being shifted, footsteps back and forth, the small, ordinary noises of a life being packed away. I made coffee and waited. He came downstairs around 8, looking exhausted but determined. We had borrowed a pickup truck from my neighbor Harold, a retired firefighter who had known our family for decades. Harold had offered to help with the heavy lifting, but Tyler had declined. "I need to do this myself," he had said. "It does not feel real unless I do it myself." Bon. So it was just the 2 of us, carrying boxes and garbage bags full of clothes down the stairs, loading them into the truck bed. Tyler had so few possessions that actually mattered. A handful of clothes, some books he had not touched in years, a laptop that was 3 generations out of date, the framed photograph of David that had sat on his dresser since the funeral. Everything else, all the gaming equipment and collectibles and accumulated junk, stayed behind. Tyler did not even look at it as we walked past. "I will come back for the rest later," he said, but we both knew he would not. That chapter was closed. The drive to Oak Street took 15 minutes. Tyler sat in the passenger seat, staring out the window, his knee bouncing with nervous energy. I wanted to say something comforting, something to ease the transition, but I kept my mouth shut. Some moments require silence. The apartment building was old, but well-maintained. Red brick, 3 stories, a small patch of grass out front where someone had planted marigolds. Tyler's unit was on the 2nd floor, number 2B. A door painted forest green with a brass number plate that needed polishing. We carried everything up in 4 trips. It did not take long. When we finished, Tyler stood in the middle of his new home surrounded by boxes, looking lost. "It is so quiet," he said. "You will get used to it." I have never lived alone before, not once in my entire life. Neither had I until your father died. He looked at me, something shifting in his expression. Was it hard being alone in the house after he was gone? The hardest thing I have ever done. Harder than nursing school, harder than childbirth, harder than any double shift at the hospital. Coming home to an empty house, cooking for one, sleeping in a bed that suddenly felt enormous. I thought I would drown in the silence. How did you survive it? 1 day at a time, 1 hour at a time when days felt too long. I learned that loneliness does not kill you even when it feels like it will. I learned that you can build a new normal even when the old one has been destroyed. Tyler nodded slowly, processing this. I could see him filing the information away, storing it for the difficult nights ahead. "I should go," I said. "Let you get settled." "Yeah, okay." I picked up my purse and walked to the door. Then I stopped my hand on the knob and turned back. "Tyler." "Yeah." "Call me if you need anything. Not money, not rescuing, but if you need to talk, if things get overwhelming, if you just need to hear another voice, call me." His eyes glistened. "I will." "I mean it. Asking for help is not weakness. Your father never understood that, and it cost him years of unnecessary suffering. Do not make the same mistake." "I will not." I opened the door, stepped into the hallway, and pulled it closed behind me. The click of the latch felt like a period at the end of a very long sentence. The drive home was strange. The house was going to be empty now, truly empty for the first time since Tyler was born. I had been alone after David died technically, but Tyler had always been there. A presence, even if it was a dysfunctional one. Someone else breathing the same air, existing in the same space. Now there was nothing. Just me and the memories and the echo of footsteps that no longer came. I pulled into the driveway and sat there for a long moment, hands on the steering wheel, staring at the house where I had lived for 30 years. It looked different somehow. Smaller, older, like it had aged overnight. I went inside and cleaned Tyler's room from top to bottom, stripped the sheets, vacuumed the carpet, wiped down every surface. I threw away bags and bags of garbage, energy drink cans, chip bags, pizza boxes that had been shoved under the bed and forgotten. The accumulated waste of 8 years of hiding from life. When I finished, the room was unrecognizable. Bare walls, empty shelves, a bed that looked like it belonged in a guest room instead of the sanctuary of a lost young man. I closed the door and did not open it again for weeks. The first call came 3 days later. It was almost midnight. I had been asleep for hours when my phone buzzed on the nightstand. Tyler's name on the screen. "Hello." "Mom." His voice was small, scared. I think I made a mistake. I sat up in bed, instantly alert. "What happened?" "Nothing happened. Nothing specific. I cannot do this. I am lying here in the dark in this tiny apartment, and I cannot stop thinking about how badly I have screwed up my life. 24 years old, no education, a warehouse job, living in a studio that smells like the previous tenant's cigarettes. This is not a life. This is barely surviving." "Tyler, listen to me. I want to come home. I know you said 30 days, and I did the 30 days, but I want to come home. I will do whatever you want. I will get a job there. I will pay rent. I will follow any rules you set. Just please let me come back." The desperation in his voice was raw and real. I could hear the tears he was trying to hold back, the panic rising in his throat. Every maternal instinct I had screamed at me to say yes, to open the door and welcome him back, to make the pain go away. But I had spent 8 years making his pain go away, and all it had done was delay it. No. Mom, please. No, Tyler, you are not coming home. Why are you doing this to me? I am not doing this to you. I am doing this for you. What you are feeling right now, this fear and loneliness and regret, this is what growth feels like. It is supposed to be uncomfortable. If it were easy, you would have done it years ago. I cannot handle it. Yes, you can. You are stronger than you think. I am not. I have never been strong. I fell apart when Dad died, and I never put myself back together. Then this is your chance, right now, tonight. You can lie there in the dark and feel sorry for yourself, or you can decide that tomorrow will be different, that you will start putting yourself back together one piece at a time. Silence on the other end. I could hear him breathing ragged and uneven. "It is so hard," he whispered. "I know it is. The hardest things always are. But hard does not mean impossible. Hard just means it matters. What if I fail? Then you fail, and then you try again. There is no shame in falling down. The only shame is in refusing to get back up." More silence. Then slowly his breathing began to steady. "I am sorry I called so late. Do not apologize. I told you to call if you needed to talk. I meant it. I just felt so alone. You are alone. That is part of being an adult. But alone does not mean abandoned. I am still here. Emma is still here. We are not going anywhere. We are just giving you room to become the person you are supposed to be." "I do not know who that is. Neither do I. Neither did your father at your age. Neither did anyone. You figure it out as you go. That is the whole point." Tyler was quiet for a long moment. When he spoke again, his voice was calmer. Still sad, still scared, but no longer spiraling. "I should let you sleep." "Are you going to be okay?" "I think so. Maybe. I do not know." A small, shaky laugh. "Ask me again tomorrow." "I will. Good night, Tyler." "Good night, Mom. And thank you for not letting me come back. I know that sounds strange, but I think I needed to hear it." "I know you did. That is why I said it." I hung up and lay back down, but sleep did not come for a long time. I stared at the ceiling, thinking about my son, alone in his tiny apartment, facing his demons for the first time in his life. It would have been so easy to rescue him, so easy to fall back into old patterns, but easy is not the same as right. The weeks that followed were a roller coaster. Some days Tyler called sounding almost optimistic. He had made it through another shift. His supervisor had complimented his work ethic. He had figured out how to cook rice without burning it. Small victories that meant everything. Other days he did not call at all. I would go 3 or 4 days without hearing from him, imagining the worst, forcing myself not to drive over and check on him. He was an adult. He needed space. Hovering would only undermine everything we were trying to accomplish. And then there were the calls that came late at night when his defenses were down and the loneliness became unbearable. Those were the hardest. Listening to him struggle, resisting the urge to fix it, saying the same things over and over. "You can do this. It will get easier. I believe in you." I did not always believe myself. But I said it anyway because sometimes faith is a choice you make before the evidence arrives. 2 months after Tyler moved out, Emma came home for Thanksgiving. I picked her up at the airport, and the moment I saw her, I burst into tears. She held me in the middle of the arrivals terminal, not saying anything, just letting me cry. "I am sorry," I said, finally wiping my eyes. "I do not know where that came from." "You have been holding it together for months, Mom. You are allowed to fall apart a little." We drove home and talked about everything. Her classes, her research project, the boy she had been seeing, a fellow medical student named James, who sounded far too good to be true. Light conversation, easy and familiar, a reminder of how things used to be before grief rewrote our family. But the real conversation came later after dinner, when we were sitting in the living room with glasses of wine. "How is he really doing?" Emma asked. "And do not give me the sanitized version. I want the truth." I took a long sip of wine before answering. "He is struggling, some days more than others, but he is still there, still showing up." Still trying. Have you seen him? A few times. We had lunch last week. He looked tired but present, if that makes sense. It does. Being present was always his problem. I think he is starting to understand that. Starting to understand a lot of things. Emma was quiet for a moment. I was so angry at him for so long. For what he put you through. For the way he treated you. When you told me what happened, what he did that night, I wanted to drive straight here and... I do not even know. Shake him until he woke up. Make him see what he had become. He sees it now, or he is starting to. Does that make it okay? What he did... I considered the question carefully. No, nothing makes it okay. You do not hit the people you love. You do not raise your hand against your own mother. That is a line you do not cross ever. Then how can you forgive him? I have not forgiven him, not completely. Maybe I never will. But forgiveness and moving forward are not the same thing. I can choose to move forward to give him the chance to become better without pretending that what happened did not happen. That sounds exhausting. It is. But what is the alternative? Cut him off forever. Write him out of my life. He is my son, Emma, my firstborn, the child I carried for 9 months and loved since before he took his first breath. I cannot just erase that because he made a terrible mistake. It was more than a mistake. I know, but people are more than their worst moments. Your father taught me that. He made mistakes too, you know, things he never told you kids about. But he learned from them. He grew. Tyler can do the same. Emma shook her head slowly. You are a better person than me. I do not think I could do it. If someone I loved hurt me like that, I do not think I could ever look at them the same way. Maybe not, but you have never been a mother. When you are, you will understand. The love does not stop just because the person becomes hard to love. If anything, that is when they need it most. Thanksgiving Day was awkward and beautiful in equal measure. Tyler arrived at noon, standing on the porch with a store-bought pie in his hands and an expression of profound uncertainty. He had lost weight since I last saw him. His clothes hung differently on his frame. He looked older, more worn, but also more present somehow, more there. Emma answered the door while I busied myself in the kitchen, giving them space to navigate their first interaction in over a year. Hi, I heard Tyler say. Hi. Emma's voice was cool-guarded. I brought pie. Pumpkin. I remembered it was your favorite. You remembered right. A long pause. The tension was thick enough to feel from across the house. Emma, I know you are angry. You have every right to be. What I did to Mom, the way I have been living all of it, I am not going to make excuses. Good, because there are not any. I know. I just wanted to say, I am trying, really trying this time. I got my GED. I am taking night classes at Columbus State. Introductory business stuff, nothing fancy, but it is something. I am saving money from my job. I am building a life. That is great, Tyler. Really. I am happy for you. But you need to understand something. What you did to Mom that night, I do not know if I can ever fully get past that. She is the strongest woman I know, and you made her feel small. You made her feel afraid in her own home. That is not something that just goes away because you bought the right pie. I know. Do you? Because sometimes I wonder. Sometimes I think you are just going through the motions because Mom forced your hand. Because you had no other choice. That is how it started. I am not going to lie about that. Mom backed me into a corner, and I came out swinging, metaphorically speaking. But somewhere along the way, something changed. I started doing things not because I had to, but because I wanted to. Because I actually wanted to be better. Why? What changed? Tyler was quiet for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice was thick. I looked in the mirror one day, really looked, and I did not recognize the person staring back. I kept thinking about Dad, about what he would say if he could see me. And I realized he would be ashamed, not disappointed, ashamed. His son, the one he asked Mom to take care of, had turned into a monster, a leech, someone who took and never gave anything back. And that was enough, one look in the mirror. No, it was not enough. It was just the beginning. But it was a start. For the first time in 8 years, I actually saw myself clearly. And I hated what I saw. That hate, that shame, it is what gets me out of bed every morning now. It is what keeps me going when everything feels impossible. I heard Emma exhale slowly. The sharp edge in her voice softened slightly. I want to believe you. I really do. But trust is not something you can rebuild in a few months. I know. I am not asking you to trust me. I am asking you to give me time. To watch and see. I will prove it to you, Emma. However long it takes. More silence. Then unexpectedly, Emma laughed. You know what? That is the first honest thing you have said to me in years. No excuses, no manipulation, just truth. I am trying to do more of that. The truth thing. It is harder than lying, but it feels better. Come on, dinner is almost ready, and if you try to steal any turkey before Mom says grace, I will stab you with a fork. Fair enough. They walked into the kitchen together, not quite friends, not quite enemies, but something in between, something that had room to grow. Dinner was the best meal we had shared as a family in almost a decade. Not because of the food, although I had outdone myself with the turkey and stuffing, but because of the conversation, real conversation, about Tyler's classes and Emma's research and memories of David and hopes for the future. For 3 hours we were a family again. Not the family we used to be. We could never be that family again. But something new, something that had survived the breaking and come out different on the other side. When Tyler left that evening, he hugged Emma for a long time. She was stiff at first, holding back, but gradually I saw her relax into it, accepting something she had resisted for years. Thank you for not giving up on me, Tyler said. Thank Mom. She is the one who did the hard part. I just showed up for dinner. Still, it means something. You being here, it means a lot. Emma nodded. Do not make me regret it. I will try not to. He turned to me and something passed between us. Not words, just understanding. Thank you, Mom, for everything. You did the work, Tyler. All I did was point you in the right direction. That is not nothing. That is everything. He walked to his car, the same old Honda Civic that had once been a symbol of my enabling. Now it was just transportation, a tool for getting from one place to another. I watched him drive away and felt something settle in my chest. Not peace exactly, but hope. The first real hope I had felt in years. Emma came to stand beside me on the porch. He is different, she said quietly. I did not expect that. People can change. It just takes the right circumstances. And someone brave enough to create those circumstances. I put my arm around my daughter and held her close. My 2 children, both wounded by the same loss, both healing in their own ways, both finally moving forward. Your father would be proud, I said. Of Tyler. Of all of us. Emma leaned her head on my shoulder. I miss him. I miss him too. Every single day. Do you think he knows wherever he is? Do you think he can see that we are okay? I thought about David, about his laugh and his calloused hands and the way he used to dance with me in the kitchen when his favorite song came on the radio. I thought about the last words he ever spoke to me. Take care of our kids, especially Tyler. I think he knows, I said, and I think he is finally at peace. We stood there together as the sun set over Columbus, watching the sky turn from blue to orange to deep purple. Mother and daughter, survivors, women who had walked through fire and come out stronger on the other side. The holidays were over. Real life was waiting. But for that one moment, everything was exactly as it should be, and that was enough. Winter came hard that year, the kind of Ohio winter that buries everything under gray skies and dirty snow, that makes you forget the sun ever existed. I spent most of December and January close to home, reading books I had put off for years, reorganizing closets that did not need reorganizing, finding small projects to fill the quiet hours. Tyler and I had settled into a new rhythm. Sunday dinners at my house when his work schedule allowed, weekly phone calls, sometimes more. Not the desperate late-night calls anymore, but ordinary conversations. How was your day? What are you eating? Did you see the game? Normal. We were becoming normal. But normal has a way of lulling you into complacency, of making you think the hard part is over when really it is just waiting around the corner. The call came on a Tuesday evening in early February. I was washing dishes when my phone rang. Tyler's name on the screen. I dried my hands and answered, expecting the usual check-in. Mom? His voice was wrong. Tight. Controlled. The way people sound when they are trying very hard not to fall apart. Tyler, what is it? I got fired. The words hit me like a physical blow. 6 months of progress. 6 months of him showing up, working hard, building something. Gone. What happened? They said I was not meeting performance metrics, that my numbers were not where they needed to be, but that is not the real reason. What is the real reason? A long pause. I could hear him breathing, struggling to get the words out. My supervisor, a guy named Marcus, he has had it out for me since day one. I do not know why. Maybe he just does not like my face, but he has been writing me up for things that are not my fault, blaming me for mistakes other people made, setting impossible standards, and then documenting when I do not meet them. Did you report this to anyone? Who was I supposed to report it to HR? They do not care. They just want bodies moving boxes. When Marcus told them I was not cutting it, they did not even ask my side, just handed me my last check and walked me to the door. I gripped the edge of the counter, steadying myself. Tyler, I am so sorry. That is not fair. Fair, he laughed bitterly. Nothing about this is fair. I was doing everything right, showing up early, staying late, taking every shift they offered. And it does not matter. None of it matters. It matters. The effort you put in matters. Does it? Because from where I am standing, it looks like I am right back where I started. No job, no prospects. Sitting in this apartment wondering how I am going to pay rent next month. The old patterns were right there waiting to reassert themselves. I could hear it in his voice, the self-pity, the victim mentality, the belief that the world was against him and there was no point in trying. I wanted to comfort him. I wanted to tell him everything would be okay, that I would help, that we would figure it out together. But that was not what he needed. What are you going to do about it? What? You lost your job. That is a setback, a big one. So what are you going to do about it? I do not know. That is why I called you. I'm not going to solve this for you, Tyler. If that is what you are looking for, you called the wrong person. Silence on the other end. I could almost feel his frustration through the phone. I am not asking you to solve it. I am asking for advice. My advice is to stop feeling sorry for yourself and start looking for another job. Tomorrow morning. Not next week. Tomorrow. It is not that simple. Actually, it is exactly that simple. You found one job, you can find another. The skills you learn do not disappear just because Marcus is a jerk. The work ethic you built is still there. The only question is whether you are going to use it or let this knock you back into old habits. You think, I want to go back to old habits? I think you are standing at a crossroads right now. 6 months ago, something like this would have destroyed you, would have sent you straight back to that room hiding from the world. The question is whether you are the same person you were 6 months ago or whether you have actually changed. Tyler was quiet for a long moment. When he spoke again, his voice was different, steadier. I have changed. Then prove it. Not to me, to yourself. How? By getting up tomorrow and doing exactly what you did before, applying for jobs, going to interviews, facing rejection without letting it break you. That is what adults do. That is what your father did every time life knocked him down. You keep bringing up Dad because he is relevant, because he faced more setbacks than you know and never once gave up, because he would be watching you right now if he could, hoping you choose to fight instead of fold. I heard Tyler take a deep breath, release it slowly. Okay. Okay, what? Okay, I will start looking tomorrow. I will send out applications. I will do whatever it takes. Good. And Tyler, yeah. It is okay to be scared. It is okay to be angry. Those feelings are normal. Just do not let them make your decisions for you. I will try. That is all anyone can do. We talked for a few more minutes about practical things, his savings, his expenses, how long he could last before the situation became critical. He had enough for about 6 weeks if he was careful. 6 weeks to find something new before the walls started closing in. When I hung up, I sat down at the kitchen table and stared at the phone in my hands. Every instinct screamed at me to help, to write a check, to call in favors, to smooth the path the way I had always smoothed it before. But I did not. I sat with the discomfort, with the fear, with the uncertainty, and I let my son face his own battle. The next few weeks were hard, for both of us. Tyler applied to dozens of jobs, warehouses, retail stores, restaurants, anything that was hiring. Most did not respond. The ones that did often rejected him after learning about his limited experience or his lack of education. He called me every few days, sometimes optimistic, sometimes defeated. I listened, I encouraged, I refused to rescue. On week 3, he got an interview at a small logistics company on the other side of town. Entry level, same as before, but with room for advancement. They want someone who can grow with the company. Tyler told me the night before his interview, someone reliable, someone who shows up. That sounds like you. Does it? Because my track record is not exactly impressive. Your track record is 6 months of showing up to a job where your boss hated you and still doing the work. That is impressive. That is exactly what they are looking for. What if I blow it? Then you blow it, and you try again somewhere else, but you are not going to blow it. How do you know? Because you are your father's son, and your father never met a challenge he could not rise to. The interview was at 10 in the morning. I spent the entire day unable to focus, checking my phone every few minutes waiting for news. It came at 4:30. I got it. 2 words. The most beautiful 2 words I had ever heard. Tyler, that is wonderful. They want me to start Monday. The pay is better than before, $13.50 an hour, and the supervisor seemed actually human, like he asked me about myself, about my goals. Nobody at the warehouse ever asked me anything. I am so proud of you. I almost did not go. This morning I was lying in bed, and I kept thinking about all the ways it could go wrong, all the reasons to just stay home and give up. But then I remembered what you said about proving it to myself. So I got up, put on my interview clothes, and went. That took courage. It did not feel like courage. It felt like desperation. Sometimes they are the same thing. Tyler laughed, and it was a real laugh. Not bitter, not sarcastic, the laugh of someone who had survived something and come out the other side. Thank you, Mom, for not letting me quit. You did not quit. That was all you. Maybe, but you showed me how. Spring arrived slowly the way it always does in Ohio, gray giving way to green, cold giving way to warmth, the world waking up after a long sleep. Tyler thrived at his new job. Within 2 months, he had been promoted to shift lead. Within 4, they were talking about moving him into operations management. His supervisor, a woman named Linda, told me at a company picnic that Tyler was one of the most reliable employees she had ever had. He never calls in sick, she said, never makes excuses. When something goes wrong, he owns it and fixes it. You do not see that very often anymore. He learned from his father, I said. Well, his father taught him well. I did not correct her, did not explain that it was not David who had taught him these lessons, but loss, pain, the slow, grinding work of rebuilding a life from the ground up. Some lessons can only be learned the hard way. In May, on the 1-year anniversary of the night he hit me, Tyler asked if we could talk. He came to the house on a Saturday afternoon. I made lemonade, and we sat on the back porch the way David and I used to sit on summer evenings. The yard needed work. I had let things slide over the winter, but the roses were blooming and the air smelled like cut grass and possibility. I have been thinking, Tyler said, about everything that happened, about the person I was and the person I am now. And I realized I never really apologized, not properly, I said the words, but I do not think I understood what they meant. You apologized that night, before you moved out. I know, but that was different. That was panic. That was me realizing my whole life was about to change and saying whatever I thought would make it easier. This is different. He turned to face me, and I saw something in his eyes I had not seen in years. Clarity, certainty, the look of someone who has finally stopped running from himself. Mom, I hurt you. Not just that night, although that was the worst of it. I hurt you for 8 years. I took everything you gave and never once said thank you. I blamed you for things that were not your fault. I treated you like a servant instead of my mother. Tyler, you do not have to. Yes, I do. Please, let me finish. I nodded, pressing my lips together to keep from interrupting. When Dad died, something broke inside me. I know that is not an excuse. I know other people lose parents and do not become what I became. But it is the truth. I felt like the world had ended, like nothing would ever be okay again, and I did not know how to handle it. So I hid. I shut down. I let you take care of everything because it was easier than facing reality. You were 16. You were just a child. I was 16 at first, but I was 17 and 18 and 20 and 24. At some point, being a child stops being an excuse. At some point, you have to grow up and take responsibility. He took a deep breath, his hands clasped between his knees. That night when I hit you, it was the worst moment of my life. Not because of the consequences, not because you kicked me out. Because I saw myself clearly for the first time. I saw the kind of person I had become. And it terrified me. It terrified me too. I know, and I am sorry, not just for the hitting, for all of it, for the wasted years, for the money, for the emotional toll, for making you feel like you had failed as a mother when the only failure was mine. Tears were streaming down my face now. I did not try to stop them. You were never a failure, Tyler continued. You loved me too much, maybe. Let me get away with things you should not have. But that came from love. Everything you did came from love, and I repaid you with cruelty. Tyler, I am not done. He was crying too, now tears cutting tracks down his cheeks. I want you to know that I understand now. What you did, kicking me out, giving me that ultimatum, it was the hardest thing you could have done, and it was exactly what I needed. You saved my life, Mom. You saved me from becoming someone neither of us could live with. He reached out and took my hands in his. I love you. I do not think I have said that enough over the years, but I love you, and I am going to spend the rest of my life trying to be worthy of everything you have done for me. And we sat there on the porch, hands clasped, tears falling, letting the weight of the past year settle around us. It was not forgiveness exactly. Forgiveness is too simple a word for something so complicated. It was acknowledgement, recognition, a shared understanding that we had both been broken and we were both trying to heal. Your father would be proud of you, I said finally. You think so? I know so. He always believed in you, even when you did not believe in yourself. He knew you had it in you to be something special. I am not special. I am just a guy working at a logistics company trying to get by. That is exactly what special looks like, showing up every day, doing the work, taking care of your responsibilities. That is what your father did. That is what heroes do. Tyler smiled through his tears. I do not feel like a hero. Heroes never do. We sat together until the sun began to set, talking about David, about the good times before he got sick, about the future Tyler was building. For the first time since that terrible night, I felt like I had my son back. Not the child I had lost. That child was gone forever. But someone new, someone better, someone forged in fire and tempered by pain. When Tyler left that evening, he hugged me tight. Sunday dinner next week. Always. I will bring dessert. You do not have to. I want to. I want to start contributing, being part of this family again instead of just taking from it. I watched him drive away the same old Honda Civic that had carried him through so many changes. I stood on the porch until his taillights disappeared around the corner, then went inside and called Emma. How did it go? She asked. Good. Really good. Did he apologize? Yes, really apologize, the kind that means something. And how do you feel? I thought about the question. How did I feel? Relieved, hopeful, cautiously optimistic. I feel like we are finally on the other side, I said, like the worst is behind us. Is it behind you, I mean? Can you ever really get past something like that? I do not know. Maybe not completely, but I can move forward. We both can, and that is enough for now. You are remarkable. You know that most people would not have been able to do what you did, would not have had the strength. I did not have a choice. It was that or watch him destroy himself. You always have a choice. You just made the hard one. After we hung up, I poured myself a glass of wine and sat in David's chair. The house was quiet around me. Empty, but not lonely. Not anymore. I thought about the past year, about the night that had shattered everything, about the morning I had served Tyler breakfast and handed him his future, about the weeks and months that followed the struggles and setbacks and small victories. I thought about the son who had raised his hand against me and the man who had sat on my porch today crying as he apologized for all the pain he had caused. They were the same person, but they were not the same at all. That is the strange thing about love. It does not erase the past, does not make the wounds disappear, but it creates space for something new to grow, something that could not have existed without the breaking, without the pain. I finished my wine and went to bed sleeping more peacefully than I had in months. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, new tests. The work of rebuilding was never really finished. But I was ready. We were ready. And that made all the difference. The summer passed in a blur of Sunday dinners and phone calls and slow, steady healing. Tyler continued to excel at work. Emma finished her first year of medical school at the top of her class. I started volunteering at the hospital again, something I had not done since David got sick. Life was not perfect. It never is. But it was good. Better than I had dared to hope during those dark months when everything seemed lost. In August, Tyler called with news. I am moving. My heart seized. Moving where? Not far, just to a bigger place, a one-bedroom instead of a studio. I found something nice over on Broad Street. Better neighborhood, actual kitchen, room for a couch instead of just a bed. Relief flooded through me. That sounds wonderful. The company is giving me a raise, $15 an hour plus benefits. Linda said if I keep performing, there might be a supervisor position opening up next year. Tyler, that is amazing. I know. I keep waiting for something to go wrong, for the other shoe to drop, but it just keeps getting better. That is what happens when you do the work. Good things find their way to you. I am starting to believe that. Finally. Good. You should believe it. You have earned every bit of this. There was a pause on the line. When Tyler spoke again, his voice was softer. Mom, I have been thinking about the future, about what I want my life to look like. And what do you want? I want to make you proud, really proud, not just relieved that I am not a disaster anymore. I want to be the kind of man Dad was, hardworking, reliable, someone people can count on. You are already that person. I am becoming that person. There is a difference, but I am getting there. Moving day was a Saturday. I helped this time carrying boxes up to his new apartment. It was small by most standards, but compared to the studio it felt like a palace. Hardwood floors, big windows that let in the afternoon light, a kitchen where you could actually move around. Tyler stood in the middle of the living room surrounded by his possessions, looking like he still could not quite believe it was real. Not bad for a guy who was living in his mother's basement a year ago. You were not living in the basement. You know what I mean. I looked at my son, at the man he was becoming, and I felt something bloom in my chest that I had not felt in a very long time. Pride. Real, uncomplicated pride. Your father would love this place, I said. You think so? He always said the view was the most important thing, that you could live anywhere as long as you had something beautiful to look at. Tyler walked to the window and looked out at the city. Not the most scenic view in the world, just buildings and streets and the ordinary bustle of life. But there was something beautiful about it, something hopeful. "I think I finally understand what he meant," Tyler said quietly. "What?" "The view. It is not about what is outside the window, it is about perspective, about how you choose to see things." I joined him at the window, standing shoulder to shoulder with my son. "When did you get so wise?" "I had a good teacher. A couple of them, actually." We stood there together looking out at Tyler's new life, and I knew in that moment that everything was going to be okay. Not perfect, never perfect, but okay. And sometimes okay is the greatest gift of all. 2 years passed faster than I could have imagined. Tyler got the supervisor position Linda had promised, then another promotion 6 months later. By the time autumn rolled around again, he was managing an entire shift responsible for a team of 15 people earning more money than I had made in my best years as a nurse. But it was not the money that mattered. It was who he had become. I saw it in the way he carried himself now, shoulders back, head high, the permanent slouch of defeat replaced by something that looked almost like confidence. He spoke differently too, clearer, more direct, like someone who had earned the right to take up space in the world. Emma noticed it when she came home for Christmas that year. "He is not the same person," she said, watching Tyler through the kitchen window as he helped our neighbor Harold shovel snow from the driveway. "I mean, I knew things were better. You told me. But seeing it in person is something else entirely. He has worked hard. It is more than that. He seems, I do not know, at peace, like he finally figured out who he is supposed to be." "Maybe he did." Emma turned to look at me. "And you? How are you doing, really?" It was a question she asked every time we talked, but this time it felt different, deeper, like she was ready to hear an honest answer. "I am good," I said. "Better than good. I feel like I got my life back, like I spent 8 years holding my breath, and I can finally exhale." "Do you still think about it that night?" I did not have to ask which night she meant. "Sometimes, less than I used to. It does not define everything anymore. It is just part of our story. The worst part, but not the only part." I do not know if I could do that. Move past something like that. You would be surprised what you can move past when you have to. Emma was quiet for a moment. Outside, Tyler laughed at something Harold said. The sound drifted through the window, bright and unfamiliar. I could not remember the last time I had heard him laugh like that before everything changed. "I was wrong about him," Emma said finally. "What do you mean?" "When this all started, when you told me what happened and what you were going to do, I thought you were wasting your time. I thought Tyler was too far gone, that he would fail and end up right back where he started, and you would be the one left picking up the pieces. You never told me that. I did not want to discourage you, but honestly, I gave him maybe a 10% chance of actually changing, and I was being generous. What do you think now?" Emma smiled, and it reached her eyes in a way it had not in years. "I think I underestimated both of you." Christmas dinner that year was nothing like the awkward Thanksgiving 2 years before. We laughed. We told stories about David. Tyler teased Emma about her boyfriend James, who had proposed 3 months earlier. Emma showed off her ring and talked about wedding plans while Tyler pretended to fall asleep from boredom. It was normal. Wonderfully, beautifully normal. The kind of family dinner I had dreamed about during those dark years when Tyler was lost to us, and I did not know if he would ever find his way back. After dinner, Tyler helped me with the dishes while Emma called James in California. "I have news," Tyler said, handing me a plate to dry. "Good news or bad news?" "Good. I think. I hope." "Well, do not keep me in suspense." He turned off the water and faced me, his expression suddenly serious. "I am going back to school." I nearly dropped the plate. "What?" "Columbus State. I've been taking night classes for a while now, just general stuff. But I want to do more. I want to get a real degree, business administration. Linda says the company will help pay for it if I commit to staying on for a few years after I graduate. Tyler, that is wonderful. It means things will be tight for a while. Money, time, all of it. But I have been thinking about the future. About where I want to be in 5 years, 10 years. And I do not want to be managing a warehouse forever. I want more. You deserve more. I do not know about deserve, but I'm going to work for it, whatever it takes. I set down the plate and pulled my son into a hug. He was taller than me, now had been for years, but in that moment, he felt like the little boy I used to carry on my hip. Your father would be so proud. I know. I think about that a lot. What he would say if he could see me now. He can see you. I believe that. Wherever he is watching. Tyler pulled back, his eyes glistening. Do you really believe that? I do. I have to. The alternative is too sad to consider. What do you think he would say if he could talk to me right now? I thought about David, about his laugh and his stubbornness and the way he loved our children with every fiber of his being, about the last words he ever spoke to me. He would say he loves you, and then he would probably make some terrible joke to keep from crying. Tyler laughed, wiping his eyes. Yeah, that sounds like Dad. And then he would tell you to stop wasting time talking about the past and get back to work. Because that is who he was. Always forward. Always moving. Always forward, Tyler repeated. I like that. It is a good way to live. We finished the dishes in comfortable silence. Through the window I could see the snow falling softly in the backyard, covering everything in white. A fresh start. A blank page. Spring came early that year, and with it, change. Emma's wedding was set for June in California. She wanted something small, intimate, just family and close friends. Tyler was asked to give a reading during the ceremony. He practiced for weeks, calling me to recite the passage over and over until it was perfect. What if I mess up? He asked the night before we flew out. Then you mess up. Nobody will care. They will be too busy looking at the bride. Emma will care. She will give me that look. You know the one. I know the one. But even if you stumble, she will forgive you. That is what family does. I guess. I want everything to be perfect for her. After everything I put you both through, I want to do this one thing right. You will. I have faith in you. That makes one of us. That makes two. I have enough faith for both of us. The wedding was beautiful. Emma radiant in white, James looking at her like she hung the moon. When Tyler stood at the podium to give his reading, his hands were shaking. I could see it from my seat in the front row. But then he took a breath, steadied himself, and began to speak. The passage was from Corinthians. Love is patient, love is kind. Words I had heard 1,000 times before. But somehow coming from Tyler, they sounded different, deeper, like he understood them in a way he never could have before. When he finished, there were tears in his eyes, in Emma's eyes, in mine. He walked back to his seat and squeezed my hand. No words needed. Everything that mattered passed between us in that single touch. After the ceremony, Emma found us at the reception. That was perfect, she said, hugging Tyler tight. Absolutely perfect. I did not mess up, not even a little. I was terrified. I know, I could tell, but you did it anyway. That is what courage looks like. She turned to me, her eyes shining with happiness and champagne. Thank you, Mom. For what? For being here, for everything, for not giving up on our family when it would have been so easy to walk away. I could never walk away. You two are my whole world. Emma glanced at Tyler, then back at me. Can I tell you something? Both of you. Of course. She took a deep breath. James and I are going to start trying. For a baby. Soon. Maybe next year. The world seemed to stop for a moment. My daughter a mother. Tyler an uncle. The next generation, already on the horizon. Emma, I breathed. That is wonderful. I wanted to tell you today, because today feels like a new beginning, for all of us. Tyler was quiet processing. When he finally spoke, his voice was thick with emotion. You are going to be an amazing mom." "You think so?" "I know so. You had the best example." Emma's eyes met mine over Tyler's shoulder, and in that look I saw everything: the pain and the healing, the breaking and the rebuilding. All of it leading to this moment, this perfect moment, when our family stood together in the California sunshine and looked toward a future none of us had dared to imagine. The flight home was quiet. Tyler sat beside me, staring out the window at the clouds below. "It is strange," he said, "being happy. I am not used to it. You will get used to it." "Will I? Sometimes I wake up in the morning and I still expect everything to be the way it was before. Like the past 2 years were just a dream and I'm going to open my eyes and be back in that room, wasting away." "That is not who you are anymore." "I know. Logically I know that. But there is a part of me that still does not believe it. That keeps waiting for the other shoe to drop. The other shoe already dropped, 2 years ago in our kitchen. Everything since then has been you picking yourself up." Tyler turned from the window to look at me. "I never asked you something I have always wondered." "What? That morning, when you served me breakfast and handed me that envelope, were you scared?" I thought about the question, about that morning sitting at the kitchen table waiting for Tyler to come downstairs, the thundering of my heart, the doubt clawing at my throat. Terrified, more scared than I have ever been in my life. But you did it anyway. I did not have a choice. It was that or lose you forever. You could have lost me anyway. If I had reacted differently, if I had gotten angry instead of scared, things could have gone very wrong. I know. I thought about that. All those nights when I was planning, I kept thinking about everything that could go wrong. But I also thought about what would happen if I did nothing, if I just let things continue the way they were. And that was worse. That was unacceptable, watching you destroy yourself, watching our relationship decay until there was nothing left that was not an option. Even if my plan failed, at least I would know I tried. At least I would not spend the rest of my life wondering what if. Tyler nodded slowly, absorbing this. "I used to think you did it to punish me. Those first few weeks after I moved out, I was so angry. I kept telling myself that you were cruel, that you had abandoned me when I needed you most. And now I know it was the opposite. You did it because you loved me, because you were the only person who cared enough to tell me the truth. The truth can be painful. It can, but lies are worse. I spent 8 years lying to myself, telling myself I was a victim, that the world owed me something, that my pain gave me permission to hurt the people around me. And what do you tell yourself now?" Tyler smiled. It was a real smile, warm and genuine, the smile of someone who had finally made peace with himself. "I tell myself that I am responsible for my own life, that no one is going to save me but me, that every day is a choice to be better or worse, and I am choosing to be better. That is a good thing to tell yourself. I learned it from you. From watching you all those years working double shifts, taking care of Dad when he was sick, holding our family together through sheer willpower. I thought I understood it then, but I did not. Not really. It took losing everything to finally see what you had been showing me all along." I reached over and took his hand. My son. My boy. The child I had carried and nursed and loved through every stage of his life. The man who had hurt me more deeply than anyone else ever had. The person who had risen from the ashes of his own destruction to become someone I could be proud of. "I love you, Tyler." "I love you too, Mom." The plane descended through the clouds, and Columbus spread out below us. Home. The place where everything had broken and everything had healed. 2 months later, I turned 55. I was not expecting a party. Had specifically told both kids that I did not want any fuss. But when I came downstairs that Saturday morning, Tyler was in my kitchen cooking breakfast. "What are you doing here?" "Making pancakes. Your recipe." "I can see that." "Why?" "Because it is your birthday and I wanted to do something special." I sat down at the kitchen table watching my son move around the space with practiced ease. He knew where everything was. The spatula in the drawer by the stove, the syrup in the cupboard above the refrigerator, all the small details of a home he had once taken for granted. "Emma wanted to be here," he said, flipping a pancake. "But James had a conference and she could not get away. She said to tell you happy birthday and she will call later." "That is fine, I understand. She also said to give you this." He reached into his pocket and pulled out a small envelope. I opened it to find a card with a picture of a sunset on the front. Inside, Emma's handwriting. "Mom, I know I do not say it enough, but you are my hero. Everything I am, everything I hope to become, I owe to you. Happy birthday. I love you more than words can express. Emma." My eyes blurred with tears. "There is more," Tyler said. He set a plate of pancakes in front of me, then sat down across the table. "I have something for you, too." He reached into his jacket and pulled out another envelope, larger, heavier. "What is this? Open it." I slid my finger under the flap and pulled out a stack of papers. At first, I did not understand what I was looking at. Legal documents, financial statements, numbers that did not make sense. Then I saw the header on the first page, "Last Will and Testament of Tyler David Thompson." "Tyler, what is this?" I had a lawyer draw it up. I wanted everything official, documented. I scanned the pages, my heart racing. Tyler had listed me as the sole beneficiary of his estate, his savings account, which had grown substantially over the past 2 years, his retirement fund, everything. "But this is yours. You earned this." "I did, and I want you to have it if anything happens to me. Not because I expect something to happen, but because I want you to know that I understand now what you sacrificed for me, what you gave up. I can never repay that, but I can make sure you are taken care of." "Tyler, I do not know what to say." "You do not have to say anything. Just know that I see you. I see everything you did. And I am grateful. More grateful than I could ever express." I looked at my son through a veil of tears. This man who had hit me, who had called me nothing, who had taken and never given back, now sitting across from me, offering everything he had as proof that he had changed. "There is one more thing," he said, "at the bottom of the stack." I shuffled through the papers until I found it. A handwritten letter on plain white paper. Tyler's writing careful and deliberate. I read it slowly. "Dear Mom, I have been trying to write this letter for 2 years. Every time I sit down to do it, the words do not come out right. But today is your birthday, and I promised myself I would finally give it to you. So here goes. I remember the day Dad died. I remember standing at his grave and feeling like the world had ended. I remember thinking that nothing would ever be okay again. And for a long time I was right. Nothing was okay. I was not okay. And I made sure everyone around me knew it. What I did not see was you, standing right beside me, grieving just as hard, trying to hold everything together. I was so focused on my own pain that I could not see yours. I was so lost in my own darkness that I forgot you were lost too. You had every reason to give up on me. After everything I did, everything I said, the way I treated you, you would have been justified in walking away. But you did not. Even when you asked me to leave, you were not giving up. You were fighting for me in the only way I would understand. I know I've apologized before, but I want to say it again in writing so you can keep it forever. I am sorry for all of it, for the wasted years and the angry words and that terrible night that I will regret until the day I die. I am sorry for not being the son you deserved, for not being the man Dad asked you to raise. But I am trying now. Every day I am trying. Not because I want your forgiveness, although I hope for it. Not because I want to make up for the past, although I wish I could. But because you showed me what it means to love someone, really love them, enough to do the hard thing, enough to let them fall so they can learn to stand. You saved my life, Mom. I do not say that lightly. I was dying in that room slowly and surely, and you pulled me back from the edge. Whatever I become, whatever I achieve, it will be because of you. Because you believed in me when I did not believe in myself. Because you loved me when I was unlovable. Happy birthday. I hope this next year brings you everything you deserve, which is everything. All my love forever and always. Tyler. I set the letter down on the table. I could not speak, could barely breathe. Tyler watched me waiting, his eyes filled with an anxiety I recognized. The fear of vulnerability, the terror of laying yourself bare before someone who has seen you at your worst. I stood up, walked around the table and pulled him to his feet. Then I held him, just held him. My son, my child, the greatest challenge of my life and my greatest triumph. Thank you, I whispered. For what? For becoming the man your father knew you could be. We stood there in the kitchen holding each other as the morning light streamed through the windows. The same kitchen where he had hit me 2 years ago. The same table where I had served him breakfast and changed both our lives. But it was not the same. Nothing was the same. Because we were not the same. We had broken. We had bled. We had faced the darkest parts of ourselves and each other. And we had survived. More than survived. We had transformed. That afternoon, Tyler took me to lunch at the restaurant where David had proposed 33 years ago. We sat at a table by the window, eating food that was probably too expensive but tasted like celebration. I have been thinking about Dad a lot lately, Tyler said. About the promise he asked you to make. Take care of our kids. Yeah, that one. He set down his fork and looked at me directly. You kept it. That promise. Even when I made it almost impossible. I almost did not. There were times when I wanted to give up, when I thought there was no point in trying anymore. What stopped you? You, the boy you used to be. I kept remembering who you were before grief swallowed you, and I could not accept that he was gone forever. I had to believe he was still in there somewhere waiting to come back. He was. You were right. I was terrified I was wrong. But you were not. Tyler smiled, and in that smile I saw everything, the past and the present and the future, all woven together. You were not wrong about any of it. We finished our meal and walked outside into the warm afternoon. Columbus spread out around us familiar and changed the city where I had built my life and almost lost my son. What now? Tyler asked. What do you mean? For you, what comes next? You spent so many years taking care of other people. Dad, me, your patients. What do you want for yourself? It was a question I had not allowed myself to consider in a very long time. My life had always been defined by responsibility, by duty, by the needs of everyone except me. I want to see Emma's baby when it comes, I said. I want to watch you graduate from college. I want to grow old in that house and tend my garden and remember all the good years with your father. That is all. That is everything. That is more than I ever dared to hope for. Tyler nodded slowly. You deserve it. All of it. So do you. I am working on believing that. Keep working. One day you will. We walked back to my car, side by side, mother and son. The same relationship as always, but different, deeper, forged in fire and stronger for the burning. That night alone in my house, I sat in David's chair and thought about everything that had happened. The breaking and the healing, the ultimatum and the transformation. All the nights I had lain awake, wondering if I had made a terrible mistake. I had not made a mistake. I had made a choice, the hardest choice of my life. And it had led us here to this moment, to a future I had almost given up on. Tyler was right. Love is not giving someone what they want. Love is giving them what they need, even when it hurts, even when they hate you for it, even when you are not sure if it will work. I looked at the photograph of David on the mantel. His smile, his eyes, the face I had loved for more than 30 years. I kept my promise, I said to the empty room. It was hard, harder than anything, but I did it. Our boy came back. The house was quiet around me, but in that silence I could almost hear David's voice, the words he would say if he could see us now. Well done, Maggie. Well done. I smiled, closed my eyes, and let the peace wash over me. The peace of a battle fought and won, the peace of a family restored, the peace of knowing that love, real love, is always worth the struggle. My son laid a hand on me. It was the worst moment of my life. but what came after the breakfast, the truth, the long road back to each other that was the best. And in the end, the best is what matters. Not the falling, the rising, not the breaking, the healing, not the hand that struck me, but the arms that finally learned to hold. That is my story, the story of a mother and son who lost everything and found their way back, the story of a family that shattered and reformed into something stronger. If you are out there listening to this, if you are facing your own impossible choice, your own moment of truth, I want you to know one thing: it is worth it. The pain, the fear, the uncertainty, all of it is worth it. Because on the other side of the hardest thing you will ever do is the life you were meant to live. Believe that, fight for it, and never, ever give up. That is what I learned. That is what I know to be true. Love is not soft. Love is not easy. Love is the strongest force in the universe, and sometimes it looks like letting go. Sometimes it looks like a breakfast served with truth instead of comfort. Sometimes it looks like 30 days and an ultimatum and a mother who refused to watch her son destroy himself. And sometimes, if you are very lucky, it looks like a second chance. I got my second chance. Tyler got his. And now whatever comes next, we will face it together, as a family, the way it was always meant to be.